Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Opera 101 with Cleveland Opera Theater. My name is Dean Buck, and I am the assistant conductor and chorus master for Cleveland Opera Theater. And thank you, as always, for joining us. As we are in Rossini month, I figured we would take the time today to talk about one of Rossini's a little bit lesser known pieces, and that is Otello. Rossini once said that he didn't know how many of his operas would be remembered and played throughout history, but that The Barber of Seville certainly would. And he also mentioned that Otello would definitely be one that survives the ages. And it didn't so much as Rossini had hoped for. So we're going to look at maybe perhaps why that's the case. Rossini's Otello premiered in the exact same year as Barber of Seville in 1816, and it was one of his earlier attempts at really doing a serious dramatic opera. He was so well known for doing comic operas at the time, but wanted to kind of have a foray into a more dramatic realm, and he decided to set Otello. Now, he actually hadn't encountered Shakespeare's play of Othello, which of course is what it's based on. He and his librettist had rather found a rather obscure French adaptation of it. And the story differs significantly. The character of Cassio is completely, or Cassius in the Shakespeare, is completely omitted, and combined with the character Rodrigo, who is a minor character in Shakespeare's play. But in the Rossini Otello, Rodrigo is as big of a character as Iago, essentially, and the two of them are conspiring together. Another reason that the Rossini Otello is very hard to put on is because the casting is extremely difficult. Otello, Iago, and Rodrigo are all written for tenors, and not just any tenor. It is some of the most difficult singing for all three roles. And finding three rock star tenors, having the budget to pay three rock star tenors, is something that typically dissuades one from putting on an opera like this. Rossini did revise the role of Iago to optionally be sung by a baritone after the show's premiere. But when it is done nowadays, it is usually done as it was originally intended, with the three tenor roles. And it's stunning when you hear it. Musically, it is just an incredible piece of music. Rossini's setting of the Willow Song in Act 3 is some of the most absolutely beautiful lyrical writing that I think he's ever done. And it's definitely worth checking out. One thing that's really interesting is to hear typical, I guess you could call them Rossiniisms, but used for the dramatic rather than the comic. So things like the typical Rossini crescendo in Desdemona's aria, which ends Act 2, there is an incredible use of Rossini's trademark Rossini crescendo, where Desdemona begins losing her mind over the rumors that have been circulated by Iago, and the way Rossini writes it with kind of musical devices that you would typically associate with operas like Cenerentola or The Barber of Seville. It really serves as a stark contrast to, and I think it shows how great of a composer Rossini was, that he can use this device that usually works as, fun, comedy to create such a dramatic mood, which he really, really does expertly in this moment, as he does throughout the show. One of probably the biggest reason that the Rossini Otello has fallen out of the repertoire is obviously because of the Verdi Otello, which in a lot of ways went past what Rossini's Otello was able to do. It's much more loyal to Shakespeare's play, as that's what it was based on. Verdi was not only aware of Shakespeare, he was a huge Shakespeare fan. And dramatically, it is much more sound, and it is a much more involved adaptation. And there is a lot more going on. It's a bigger production. It was written at a point in Verdi's career where he was already, basically the biggest celebrity in Italy, by far the most well-known composer in Italy. And once that came on the scene, the kind of final nail was put in the coffin of the Rossini Otello. There have been a few very well done stagings of the Rossini Otello throughout the 20th century, throughout the 21st century, and it does pop up every once in a while. And I would implore you to give it a listen. I personally don't find it as dramatically compelling as Verdi's adaptation, as it wasn't, its source material was not as good a piece of drama as the original Shakespeare, and Verdi was so good at adapting. But what it does have is such magnificent composition, incredible vocal writing, and it really shows how Rossini is able to use these musical devices that we're so familiar with from his more comic operas to achieve a dramatic effect. And it may be a bit jarring at first and being like, wait a minute, what is going on? But once you kind of let yourself go into it, it really provides a remarkable experience that I would definitely encourage everyone to check out and give a listen, because it's a very, very interesting work that I really don't think gets its fair share of appreciation. If anyone has any questions, any recordings that they want recommendations for, or would like to talk at length about any of these things, don't hesitate to contact us. We're always happy to talk and answer any questions you might have. Thanks as always for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Thanks everyone, and be safe.